I was watching a slick 1917ist operator recently, and their takes on the whole Trump assassination thing. So how do you spot a disinformationist from the 1917 variety? Well, one, they claimed that the assassination attempt was a fake or could be a fake, or you can't really know because it's a post-truth society. They use that. They lead in with that. Then what did they do? They claimed the shooter was a Trump loyalist because that's the conspiracy, that it was a loyalist. That's the opposite of the truth. He was a smuggy leftist, a know-it-all, just like smuggy leftists are. He led in also with emotional lead-in. Yeah, of course Trump's an asshole because he's a personality, because of course he's wrong kind of thing. That type of gobbledygook thinking, I think, is devised for women and feminized men. It's feeling, so I'm going to just create a feeling for you to, because that vibe, yeah, of course you're right. Trust that feeling. What are you talking about? It's about the issues, it's not about personal feelings. But yeah, see, 1917 is, 1984 is, emotion, agitate, and then object, and that's it. It's a wrap. So they're using that technique. The term, just like, define feminine is a red flag for women. Wealth inequality. Just look, I am the person that is behind the nationalization of the banks, like the Bank Nationalization Act, NBA, or BNA, right? I'm behind that. But wealth inequality is a leftist dog whistle. And that shows that they've had ideological training. And that means you're dealing with a faker, an agitator, essentially, that's just pretending to be a normal person. Like, they also like to say they're neutral, they're open to a big opinion. The other thing, yeah, they covered for the Jack Black thing. Like, he shouldn't be canceled for saying that the only thing that went wrong was that the shooter missed. People need to be big-minded, but yeah, if other people say things that they don't like, which isn't on cue with their propaganda and their suppressionist jamming techniques, then that person, yes, of course they should have been canceled. Or maybe they shouldn't have been canceled, but they got canceled anyway, so just get with the program. So yeah, wealth inequality is what they say is the big problem, not immigration, right? When we know that's not true. You can have the society in 1824 was way more civilized and way less wealthy. But now we have, on paper at least, like 10,000 times more wealth, but less civility thanks to immigrants, yeah, who don't contribute to the economy, that go directly into criminal activities for very practical reasons, like needing to survive. And it's only good for who again? Could it be the pig class that gets some agitation out of it, and everybody's looking at all these problems that are easy to solve and not looking at them getting robbed every which way but Sunday, to the point where they can pay little lefty stooge informationists pretending to be normal, campy kind of people, like sitting in a van with some lowbrow clothes on and a messed up haircut. But oddly enough, they're like the Borg. They have all the same talking points all at the same time, and all of them are wrong, but they do seem to be generated in some type of psych lab. Could that be a foreign branch of something? So if you're these YouTubers, you might want to unsubscribe to them, but if you do look at them, realize they're feeding you the line of bullshit that the dictator alliance is on board with. Dictators outside your country and dictators inside your country. Look, billionaire, that's 1,000 million people. There should be no such thing as billionaires in our time. But that wealth inequality, that is their ideology. We're not talking about wealth inequality. We're just talking about a system that doesn't allow that to happen in the first place, which would, again, go back to antitrust laws, which are already on the books and just need to be modified to get rid of the billionaire class. That never should have been allowed to happen in the first place. Like if I was put myself in a position where I'm making $1 billion, I would know immediately that something is wrong. Like I would have to tell people, hey, guess what, people? This is how you can make $1 billion, and this should not be possible. And so that's why the system should be fundamentally changed. How about this? There should be what should we call it? Speculation bill, where we reorganize all of the speculative industries and perhaps propose a different system as far as how equities are traded and things of that nature. I think that's going to be a necessary one too. I mean, maybe we can roll that into the Bank Nationalization Act, BNA, right? But that would be really easy to solve. But who would that be bad for? I don't know. Maybe 3,000 people. Who would that be good for? Yeah, everybody else. You could lower taxes without the billionaire tax. So, yeah, these lefties are bad news. 1917ists, they're always sending people in the wrong direction. And they use every underhanded trick in the book, including emotionalization. Women, they say, I hate you. I hate you, women, because you don't understand the issues. But they prime you emotionally like you're a little puppet. That's how they think you think, and in a way you do. But are they on your side, do you think, or not? I think you should be able to see through that if you're worth a damn. If you're not, look, there's stooges, there's male stooges out there too. IQ under 80 and ramped up about issues your whole life with misinformation. Yeah, you're probably a cooked goose at this point, just like the shooter was, exactly like that. A smuggy who thought he knew the political process better. He's going to put a bullet in some person's face for just talking. That's the type of culture that lefty culture thinks is edgy or cool or respectable. So just saying, walking up to somebody, an innocent person, shooting them in the face, that is the equivalent of what they're shilling for or making excuses for. What is that? That's a sign of sadism. What are sadists? Well, they're the last pieces of crap that exist on the human scale. I mean, are sadists humans? I don't know. Not good ones. So what do? They cancel people for anything. So they do that, cancel them from anything. You're in an organization that has people like that, cancel the damn organization. Get out of it. Just eject. Just start your own organization and keep your eyes open for people like that. They are working for different interests because they're all the same, like the robotic talking points. So they're not authentic, they're not legitimate, there are strings attached, and they are wrong on all the issues. And they're covering for the class. They're part of the second wing of the pig class, right? Orwell's Animal Farm. It's the new book to read, and then after that, 1984, and that combination, still in play. They're not very innovative. They've just become more cynical and more rich and less worried about things. When they were sending their own people to the gulags and killing them by the millions, you see their disdain for just common people is there. They feel that they belong to a radical class, you see. So the pig class that are materialists who think that their wealth guarding is a sign of their divine importance on this planet, the radical class, the other pig class, thinks they're divine or extra special pigs because they will commit acts of violence and sadism to achieve their goals. They think that makes them better. Oh, and also lie. They think their lying routines, their buffooning of the right wing and undermining of it, as well as their hollowing out of the left, they think they're smarter than your average bear. And their imagery, like their off imagery, conveys you have them somewhere in the framework. And if they're there, you need to find out who and get rid of them. So friends, people who are even friends of people like this, people who follow people like this, they're either deceived, well, they are deceived, or they're on board with that. And so they cancel people, you cancel them. They started it. It's like they're shooting. If you don't shoot back, there's going to be no resolution to the conflict. They escalated to that point. So you have to match it and perhaps even overmatch it to win the conflict. That's how it's done. It's not how I like things done. In a perfect world, it wouldn't need to be done, but they started it. It's just like that. So this is not going away. This is the conflict. 2014 was a horrible year. It's been a horrible 10 years. 2024 is a horrible year. And 2034 will be even worse if you continue to take the piss from these piss makers. Also, don't forget, they're looking to depoliticize you, so they're also looking to demoralize you. Like, oh, well, it's so difficult, we can't change this. We just have to put up with this. This is just what we got. We have two choices, and the last ones got thrown out, and now the new ones are in, and we just have to put up with that. No, we don't. They need to go too. Do the same thing to the Labour Party that you did to the Tories. Get rid of them all. And reform really isn't enough. You need to start maybe a new independent party, or if you are in reform, you need to get rid of all those birds that started it in the first place. Like that, I think Richard Tice is part of the pig class, and I think that was a safety valve, and there's a bunch of weirdos on the board. So if you're interested in preserving the UK, you need to look into that. But that's what's going on right now. Yeah, look into Leeds too. Like the whole immigrant and civility argument sort of breaks down when there's riots in Leeds, when one cop car shows up to shut down like open air criminality. So I was thinking about terms. Now, specifically in the US, I think the term for the class we're dealing with, it's the Benedict-Arnold-Globoists, so BAG, bags. And then we can just add a descriptor on top of that for the American audience again, which they can relate with, hopefully, which is Boss Hog bags. Because we've got Boss Hogs, a Boss Hog bag class. See, bags, these are empty bags, but they're also bag men, like they like to rob stuff. They're really greedy, like hogs. See, I said class pigs, but when I said that, I was referring to Animal Farm. But it sounds a little bit too edgy, although the play and pretend kind of pigs, I think it does apply to that. You know, dress up with the sunglasses and the authoritarian leftism, and then don't do their jobs for normal people and cover for terrorism. So that might be applicable in the traditional sense, because in the 70s and whatnot, they came out with their counterculturalism, calling cops pigs, but it wasn't really true then. But now that they've captured the institutions, it does sort of apply to them. But in a way, I feel that's too antagonistic. I think it should be more funny and also more accurate historically, as well as socially. And Boss Hog is a perfect representative of the bag class. I'm sure they destroyed the Dukes of Hazzard with a bunch of phony and fake and twisted sequels. So don't go looking there. You got to go back to the original Boss Hog. The Dukes of Hazzard, it's a series from the 70s and 80s. You just use it now that you can download that. See, people are gonna have to curate the bag culture, the cultural war, culture jamming. You're gonna have to curate that out of your lives yourselves, because the pipe they got, it's on splatter diarrhea. That's how the Boss Hog bags want it. And you want to go up to the top. Well, I guess that's BlackRock, isn't it? Because it's really funny that the shooter, who was also a smug lefty, who was known as that in the school, it was a funny interview. He was talking to a kid who was Hispanic. He's like, "Yeah, I'm voting for Trump." He's like, "You're voting for Trump and you're Hispanic? How dumb are you?" Type thing. That's what the Hispanic kid said. He's like, "You know what? This kid, he's a know-it-all. He was a know-it-all." Yeah, look how much he knew. How he got set up like that. See, leftist terrorists, how Boss Hog Bags gonna treat you. Just throw you away after you do something stupid, something counterproductive for country and democracy. Look what the Boss Hog Bags have in store for you. See all them brains on that roof? That's what you can get in terms of a payout. Already they're talking about the acoustics of the thing, where there's all these shots like pop, 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 but they're saying they came from different guns. But the play and pretend people, they say that it was just a lone gunman, just like the Kennedy assassination. But see, back then, people were more trusting of Pravda information channels. But now, there's no trust, I would say, for a long time. So, and then you've got all these weird, funny devices. You got cameras everywhere. People got their phones. They got their microphones. You can triangulate these things with a surety. So how do they think they're going to pull this one off? We'll just have to see. But Boss Hog Bags, that's what we're looking at. So go through all of the representatives. Are their wives lawyers, yes or no? Do they come from different countries, yes or no? Is their background story fishy and or buffoonish and obnoxious if you get into the details, like the book Hillbilly Eulogy that this guy had shadow written for himself? Yes or no? I'm talking about Vance now. And all the people surrounding him, backing him. Turns out Musk was the guy who I think picked him. He had to send 66 million or something to get that through. Now, Musk is also a guy, questionable background with a PR team making him look to be the biggest genius since Edison. But as far as we know, he's just been involved with financial shim-shammery. He knows the financial shim-sham people. Silicon Valley has a bad reputation at this time. In the 90s, it wasn't that way. What changed? Well, venture capital and shim-sham people and Boss Hog bags. The Benedict, see, don't forget, the bag is funny, but Benedict-Arnold, you need to remember him. Because these are boss hogs that sold out the American people long time ago. And getting back to Boss Hog, yeah, it took place in the South. Boss Hog was a plantationist, wasn't he? And this is where we get back to all you Southrons who think these boss hogs got your back. Just because there was a civil war and they threw you into a gunfire by the hundreds of thousands. You think they had your back then? You just believe that big story that they knew what they were doing? When they're the ones who came up with the term cracker, which means crack-brained. Read that book, White Trash. That's what they think of whites that don't have as much money as them. They're trash. Trash, throwaway people just in the way, just as perhaps even more annoying to them than their Negro hole diggers and cotton pickers. Those they like. They don't say nothing. They do their work. They pull them trunks out, those tree trunks out of the swamp for them. They don't complain. They get some watermelon and some chicken and a shack to live in, and they know their place. But them white crackers, ooh, they sting, Boss Hog. Heroic, beautiful, accomplished, amazing people that might not be wealthy because we live in a time of monopolies, cartels, and other unfavorable disadvantages. Ooh, that stings them. That stings their pride. That stings their theology. How about this? They have a theology around money. Talk about Lokeites, right? They think that money is what makes, having a lot of money is proof that they're good. But isn't that how the devil thinks? Isn't that how the devil would play someone? You get this money, you're a good person, and then they do the Boss Hog bag routine, the BA. They put the BA in the bag globally. They're going to heaven. They're better than other people, other crackers. They say, see, cracker is short for crack brain. They thought everybody working for them wasn't as smart as they were as a class. Think about that. Especially white people. Also, white people, you know, slavery has always been focused on white people. Eastern Europe, where do you think Slavs come from? The whole word Slav, Eastern European, that was just people they would go through the rivers, collect people, and then sell them at their markets to godless, hateful, mercenary kinds of irreligious people because they didn't consider them to be human beings, just slaves, right? Just people that, hands and feet, throwaway people. So they've renewed that franchise. They've buffed it up. They've polished it up. And essentially, their psych lab groups and their ethnic PMC groups are just little armies that they play off of each other to keep, those crackers, those white people that are uppity in their minds, suppressed, jammed, following their tails, going around in circles, attacking each other, men and women issues, what else? Homoism, all the isms and ists. They took that from the 1917ists and then ditched the working class. Isn't that strange? Who would do that other than a Boss Hog BAG? Well, there they are. Yeah, go back to how the coal mines used to be managed. They get people in there, not pay them enough, and they would be indebted to the company, and they wouldn't even pay them money. They just pay them some little coin that they came up with, scrip, so that they could never get out of that hole they dug for themselves existentially, while these mega wealthy people lorded it over them and considered themselves to be something better than the riffraff beneath them. So that's what we're looking at. So who's a couple of other ones of them? So let's see. They were mostly congealed in the Republican Party until Reagan came and kicked some of them out. Like Lyndon B. Johnson, worst president in modern history, he was a Republican of the variety that we call rhinos today. But they want the party back, and Vance is their vanguard for that. Someone of unknown heritage, really. He has a cover story. Should we believe it? He could have been born in a different country. Maybe he was born in Siberia and just sent to some polishing schools like they do in the UK. And then a little bit of wizardry on the documents, and Boss Hog BAG is as American as apple pie. At least he claims to be that, with all these globo deceptions going on. People from all over the place pretending to be American, but secretly despising Americans. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's very credible, and I think they do have a problem with that. But the problem will only get solved when they are dismissed from American politics. Look, you're a greedy person, you're a greedy business person, fine. Don't go into politics. That's not the place for you. Did someone say that was the culture of politics? Well, it isn't. People that go into politics have to be civically minded, which is for the betterment of the most amount of people. And it's not a question of who gets what or control. But you can see how greedy, sadistic, narcissistic people could get that wrong, which is why they should be subjected to scrutiny to the extent that people can ascertain what type of person they're dealing with. Oh no, lawyers are so essential for knowing something about legislation. Hell no. They're at this point, because when a system becomes more and more disreputable, so do the denizens of it. And that includes so-called lackluster security people, so-called lackluster diplomatic people, so-called lackluster politicians, and the courts and their little bailiffs and whatever else boss hog bags like to play and pretend about, including the religious aspect too, institutional uh, subversion, erosion, uh, disappearance. How about flipping on its mandate? Where it used to be a place of refuge from the riffraff, it becomes a vector for riffraff kind of thing. A boss hog bag signed off on that. So they're in it as a group. They've been in it as a group, and they've done terrible, 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 terrible things. Like Boss Hog is funny if you're looking at them back in the 70s. But what they've done from then until now, it has been catastrophic on every measure that counts, except their fake numbers that they put out there. So these are plantationists, they're organized, they think they're smart, they like to look down on real Americans, right? Let's think of them as the continuation of the Civil War party that started the Civil War in the first place and got a whole lot of people killed and nearly destroyed the country once. And they're still there, they're still networking with each other apparently, and they're still in bottlenecks in the financial sector primarily. So all of that needs to go away. Don't work for them, don't show for them, don't dance for them, don't lie for them, don't vote for them. And you need to get more informed. And again, if they're just running candidates, you need to get people together and say, look, this is what they're doing. They're throwing this damn election here. And you need to get people rousted and aware and Paul revered that they're coming for it. And you need to have other people get that spot. Because this is going to be a long process, no matter what. It could go either way. It's going all ways at all times in all directions. So this is just one vector. But removing those scales from your eyes, look, I never had a damn thing against rich people. I always believed that if you worked hard and you made money, that was fine. But see, for me, it crosses the line when they go into politics and or attack the real culture and the real people of the place with their PMC games. At that point, they essentially become a vector for hostile third parties via their greed and sadism. They might as well be a hostile third party. Are they not a hostile third party? Not doing what the American people want them to do, kind of thing? And then being in both parties at once, but playing pretend in both, colluding in both, like they did with the Tories. They all voted for the Tories. They wanted a conservative government, and what did they get? They got charlatans and fifth divisionists. That's the other thing. So, okay, that's me hitting on the Republican side, but the Democratic side, what's there? Well, there's fifth divisionists, and let's just say Rosenberg Democrats, like the Rosenbergs that sent the nuclear secrets to Russia, which is why we have all these problems today. They're very considered to be very well respected and established in the Democratic Party. But nobody knows why. It must be a conspiracy, because what type of reputation do they have in the world for their misdeeds? Because certainly when they die, I have a feeling that they're not going to heavenly places. What would the world look like today if Russia didn't have one single nuclear weapon? Do you think they would be attacking and killing people and rampaging and destroying the world? So having people that are fakers in your society, in your political system, that are working with hostile third parties, it's an existential threat to the entire world. I'm not over-exaggerating. Now back then they said, well, this was a conspiracy, that this communist infiltration, well, it wasn't really communist, it was the Boss Hog BAGs of Russia looking to do the setup shop in other countries internationally, and the US was their prime target. But of course you needed intellectuals and intellectuals, brain blasting enough kind of people to get other people in on the scheme, and that's what they did. Essentially, it was a recruiting program. But, oh, they were busted, it's done, close the chapter, and what? The whole people surrounding them, and look, it's a motley crew. You've got, I would assume, there's got to be some type of criminal connection there. So that's another subterranean part that they're dealing with. You would have to look into the labor movements and how they were all thrown under the bus and twisted and flipped. Like, that's the other thing. People are like, well, where are you on labor? Look, I am a supporter of labor, but to a point. What these fifth divisionists do is they take the labor issue and then they destroy the business model. Now, on the other hand, I do believe the business model can be changed. For example, if it's a key industry, people should not be skinflinting the damn workers. So somebody needs to look at that from a higher perspective. And if it is true that the workers are, like in the coal mine situation, that the workers are getting gypped, then yes, it does require arbitration from a higher authority, and that should be done. But if the Boss Hog BAGs don't like that, you see, they're going to try to push back, and they have. And who's benefited? Well, their orifices and nobody else's. Like, if you think of people just as orifices, they're an orifice where all the wealth is going into these few orifices, and everyone else is going hungry. Now, this is another misperception people have about Boss Hog BAGs, is that they're for the economy. No, they're not. They're for their economy. Their pocket. That's it. And if the economy shrinks like it does in Russia for everyone else, then they just get a multiplication effect on the power of their wealth. If everyone's wealthy and everyone's equally wealthy, they can't play that card, can they? But when everyone's broke-ass poor, like in Venezuela, and you got the Globoists and BAGs at the top, in the millionaire zone, then it's bongo party time for them. That's what they see. That's what goes in their pocket. Everyone else, who gives a damn, right? It's a Nobel oblige in reverse for all the other suckers and cracked brain people, as they see it, that get the shaft. So that's what we're looking at. I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but I had some problems figuring them out because I didn't think somebody could be that retarded and retrograde and up their own wazoo to think of themselves as something better based on a theology of wealth. But they do. They're that stupid. In fact, it's even in Wikipedia, this wealth theology. It's unbelievable that people think like this. But Boss Hog, it's funny. Watch, if it's on, I don't recommend any of these big companies. Of course, they're all going to be broken up in a second if we start getting some real leaders in here. But I don't know if they have it on Netflix, but you can find, like I said, you have to curate your own damn culture now. So Dukes of Hazzard, get that one. Download the whole series. But just remember, those stars and bars, that was a plantationist scheme anyway. So look, I get it. People can get caught up in things. Look at all the people that were sent to Iraq and Afghanistan and what have you. Now, I have since changed my opinion on that because I do see some strategy in it. Because other people, again, are playing for these pieces of real estate, and if your team doesn't do it, their team will, kind of thing. I get that. But still, what did the American people, or let's be more specific, the people toting guns out in the sun there, what did they get out of it except some injuries and some sunburn and some dust thrown in their face? What did they get out of it? So same thing, Civil War. I hate to tell you, all you Southerners think you're proud of that. It was a bamboozle. It was for freedom. They were going to sovereignty of the states and all that. Well, yeah, that was just a big smoke show. And if you see the Anglican Church vector and them damn preachers, and then look at Wilson, and you can see how the lineage tracks to this current debacle and the class of julep sippers. So remember, they don't see you on the plane of equality. They see you as nothing or defective. Or a potential adversary or threat. They do not see you as a compatriot, countryman, or even a human being. So that would explain also their criminal neglect in political matters, such as being able to police crime effectively, and a lot of other privileges they have for themselves, such as them being able to break the law and not be prosecuted, and you being prosecuted for arbitrary crimes, such as thought crime, word crime. And it might not even go through the courts. It might just be water armies that they employ, or 5th Divisionists. The memo goes out. Who's the bad person today? Oh, okay. The whole AstroTurf army gets activated. Would Boss Hog Bags do that? Would they stoop that low? Of course. They don't give a damn. Don't give a damn. They couldn't give less of a damn. And their actions prove it. So this is the world we're living in. Take the blinders off, people. These people have been a problem since day one. I think if you go back to Washington and his negotiations, I think Hamilton was of their class or their ilk. It's difficult, but the patriotic side won in those times because they were sort of at an advantage, weren't they? Having fought a war and winning it, they were able to decide things in the favor of the American people and Western civilization as a whole. But look at how wealth and globoism can get bad people back in the game real quick. So they're there. They need to be removed. Their structures need to be removed. Their ill-gotten gains need to be readjusted. And a lot of other things need to be put into place so that these kinds of takeovers are less possible. And that's it. It's not all that crazier than that. Could it happen? Did it happen? Can it happen? Of course. Just because you get in a car doesn't mean you're not going to get in an accident. When you get in an accident, what are you going to do? Just stay there? You need to pull yourself out, fix what's broken. It's just what needs to be done. There's no other way of doing it. Now me, I'm for the civilized approach. I think there's civilized people in all countries, all communities, all around the world. And I think they can also agree to disagree at times, but we can always maintain dignity, civility, and respect. But why should we play pretend with people that aren't interested in any of those three things I just mentioned? And any cultural attacks on your leadership, like we have to have this amount of people like this in some leadership, that's an attack on leadership. That's a cultural war crime. So the people who propose that, push that, the lobby for that, they're sponsors of that, they are all, by extension, criminals too. They're just illicit right now. But yeah, it's a lot to do, but it's not impossible. Look, Washington, he snapped his fingers and you had a new country just like that. Having a country, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and a couple of other documents, how much work is that? It's not that much work. But yeah, the enforcement, implementation, and reality of the people on the ground have to be real, not just the appearances, not these dress-up fakers. So we know what they did. This was it. This was their vector. Boss Hog BAG, see them and drop them. Who was the other one? So it was Darth Vader? He's also like a Biden Dark Crystal Emperor, won't retire, although he's cognitively disabled. At least he got booed this time around. Romney was the robot before this robot, and then there's a couple of other ones out there. These people need to be booed in public. How about that one? Booing them in public's a good one, and getting it on tape and having that make the rounds. I think that's a good way. But yeah, the lefties, you need to throw them out too. Throw the lefties out of the left and these boss hog bags out of the right. And then you got that wonderful civilized middle that's going to make America and the world great again. Now, coming back to a second to the Rosenberg Democrats. Now, that faction may have actually migrated with Marjorie Greene and J.D. Vance into the Republican side of the party. Whereas what is left over from the 1970s in the Democratic Party, they've degraded into Lanskyists. So essentially just racketeers that are coming out of the labor movement that they threw under the bus. I mean, Lansky, wasn't he in Cuba too? I mean, I don't think people like that care about governmental takeovers that are in their favor, especially if they can have impunity with the law. They just have a couple of boss hogs to deal with. And they leave them alone because they take care of the money for them. Take care of some international relations. Nobody else can deal with the country because they're basically dictators and despots and criminals themselves. But these guys can play the brokers between that, and then all of a sudden trade's happening, and who has a cut of that? Well, they do. So because they're so in tune with how things work. So, and then where did he end up? Florida. Yeah. So he's New York, Florida, Cuba, Russia. Didn't he come from Russia? Oh yeah. Well, there's that again. So is he a Rosenberg Democrat? Would be funny to go back and see who he voted for, but or who he had win elections. Because as far as I know, like they claim he lost all of his holdings in Cuba, but I seem to feel like money wasn't really a problem for him, and somehow believe that he still maintained whatever he had going on all around the damn world, which includes Italy, by the way. I mean, we're talking people that don't have problems with other people from other countries doing bad things in the country they reside in. They're not really identified with the country, you understand? So, but I don't want to over-focus on him. You could call it the Luciano faction if you want to, because they were big buddies, I believe. So, look, politics, you got to talk about the elephants in the room. I think, look, even the worst people, they can transform themselves. They can, for example, decide to get out of the drug game because of the opium war going on, the neo-opium war. And they can make that as a political decision. And guess what? Tomorrow there aren't any deliveries going anywhere. Why? Because they decided it internally. Nobody put it up to a petition. Their people, they will not touch the stuff. It's like that. But if they're working for the Reds, then the Reds say this and they do that. Oh, then we get back to China. So who were the China hands again? Look that one up. China hands, State Department, 1940s. There's no reason in the world China should have went red. But they made it happen. So look at all those billions of people doing 996. And we lose our industrial base. Think they care? What watch are they wearing? That's right, 0Fs, people. You care about your country, they don't. They have other priorities. So you got to spot them and their stooges and their network, because that's what we're dealing with. They don't belong in politics. They don't belong in civilized countries, really. But who's supposed to be cracking down on them or playing patty cake with them instead? Oh, the dress up and pretend people, could it be? Maybe they're not as essential to democracy as they might think. Maybe there needs to be a complete overhaul of all that. Start looking at names, faces, and connecting the dots, and I would just fire them all. Think you got to start over, and then with a new security update. That's the other thing that happened. What was it? Some Globo IT company associated with Microsoft. They have all these IT teams from the Dictator Alliance and operatives of the Dictator Alliance in their companies because they're so progressive, like cancer. And so if there's a nuclear strike that nothing will work kind of thing, they're pre-positioning their sabotage operators in companies. But Boss Hog BAGs, it's all about the money. They don't care about that. National security, people getting killed that matter, they don't care. They got that money and they're on the side of the goons, so they're not worried about goons. They feel that was a politically expedient decision for them to make. So yeah, that's what they are. Make a decision like that, you gotta live with the consequences. You got no credibility, and you got no believability, no trustability. How's that going to translate into a career for you? Oh, we got the PR. Yeah, all those PR companies that put out all those terrible messages that are part of a hybrid war campaign to demoralize people and screw them up. They're guilty of sin, so shut them all down. Put their owners, send their owners an invitation to a hearing. So we're going to have to get that bill started too. So see, people, problems can be difficult, but they're not insolvable. You think that's radical? What's this? What's that? How radical you think George Washington was? He's the one that founded the damn country. So you don't understand that? Well, maybe you're not an American. Maybe you don't understand what America was about. It was about freedom from Boss Hog bags, from Europe specifically, and all of their horrible decisions that they made in Europe, and also their equivalent in the colonies before it was the great country that it became and now is being run in the ground by the similar people. So look, sometimes these things are cyclical, but I think this time, especially in light of the Russian connection and the dictator alliance, people have to take this stuff more seriously. This is not about business, people. This is about everything. This is an existential situation, and you have to start understanding it like that. We are not partisan. Look on both sides, look at the wings, look at the networks. That's what real politics is about. And it's not personal, hell no. I could probably sit down any day and smoke cigars with Lansky and talk about different things and philosophy and mathematics, no problem on a personal level. But as far as him having impunity in my country, I do sort of see a problem with that. I see a practical problem with that. That's the whole thing. It's not personal, it's practical. And before anyone makes the claim that I'm too American-centric or America first, my heart goes out to the Cuban people. That was one of the best countries in the planet before it got flipped like it did. Go back, watch the old documentary films. It was right off of Florida. They had casinos. They had a great lifestyle. Hemingway wrote about it. Read the books. Old Man in the Sea, right? The people were hanging out there. It was very close. It's very close. It's easy to get to. It had a great Spanish culture. It was very rich, very civilized, very Catholic. And what did that cause? Well, that causes envy. You know, people, thieves and brigands, they want to take the good things. Why was Athens destroyed? Well, it was so nice, people wanted it for themselves. So greedy people with impunity, with a zero F swatch, they're not good for business. They're not good for the country. They're not good for the people. And my heart goes out to real Cubans that know what's up and not the fake Decepticon varieties like Menendez. So do we want to call that maybe we'll, instead of the Lansky faction, we'll just call it the Menendez faction. Why not? It's sort of the same thing, isn't it? No hate, no blame, no nothing. It's just, it is this or it isn't that. Look, I'm standing up in Hyde Park, I'm shooting the breeze. It's either true or it isn't. So who are people like that? And then just realize if you inform yourself about the atrocities that have been committed, and also we're talking about atrocity sociology, which also destroys the economy, destroys your potential, destroys your chances in life because it's a class system, animal farm style. Then you can see their Boss Hog BAG contingent, which is why the FDR Boss Hog BAG contingent was commie friendly, even though they had all the info about what they were doing. All of it. Like not the stuff being printed in Durantius rags kind of stuff. They still backed it. And handed over half of Eastern Europe to them for what was it, 60, 70 years. I mean, there's still a major negative influence in all of these countries due to that, because the respectable people, the artists and the culture they decapitated, they were established during those times. Crimes in Romania are off the charts, unimaginably bad for world civilization. They let that happen. The FDR, why don't we call them the FDR contingent? Why not? That's very, it's an umbrella, like a umbrella term. I think it fits because it includes the Boss Hog BAGists. Yeah. FDR, Wilson. You see these big bodies? If they're over 6 foot already, these giant people with giant mouths and giant asses, they're sort of like giant bugs in a way, if they're greedy like that. Now, no hate against big people. I love big people. Like big cuddly bear people, I love you guys. But greedy big bears, them grizzlies, chewing on the legs of people, chewing people's heads off and goring themselves and gorging themselves on human carrion and lives and the culture itself. Hell no. They're not people that should be tolerated anywhere. They don't have a shred of respectability. Can you imagine the bad karma of supporting that regime and then thinking yourself to be something superior to your own countrymen? What type of mind space are these people in? I mean, you got to stand on your hands and look past your ding-a-ling to see how they see the world. They are flipped. They're double more flipped than burgers. They're the flippiest burgers on the market, in the market, the flippiest burger market. So their stories don't check out, their network stinks like a morgue. Their ideas are retrograde and horrible and jamming and awful to amount to cultural war crimes. Like against Bharati. Think of the Bharati. They think of Americans like Bharatis. Do they have a language? Well, let's change that. Oh, they have a culture? Let's change that. Let's jam that. Let's flip that. So what does that lead to? Well, it leads to fragmentation. Well, fragmentation means there's no power block to oppose them. It's a commie method that they adopted in their way. Just like the Boss Hog bags in commie countries have adopted capitalism their way. China and Russia, they call them free market economies now, but how accurate do you think that is? So it's unfortunate. It really is about morality. It's about principles. It's about ethics at the end of the day. It's about practical philosophy. And practical philosophy leads to practically good outcomes for the most amount of people, but these people aren't about that. So see them like that and treat them accordingly. Come out glad-handing and shilling and pretending to be part of your people, that's really offensive, isn't it? Like that they would think that people would be that stupid to not be able to figure them out and just take them on appearances alone and a couple of flimsy sound bites and ghost-written books. That is... Again, imagine them pissing in a jar and throwing it into the face of the public. So, what does the good book say about that? If you're a Christian, what's one of the 10 Commandments? what do you do with people who are intent on murdering your culture and claiming they're not doing that? How to place them in terms of usefulness, or what would be the purpose of having them in the room? Again, this magic construction site, you got 3 people like that, and you're trying to build a building. How do you think that's going to work? Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not going to work. Just like France, it's not working. The UK is not working. The US is not working. Australia is not working. Right? The entire West is not working. And it has to do with this Boss Hog BAGism that we're dealing with, that little sliver of a demographic that doesn't consider us to be the human beings that we are, despite what they think. So let them know it, people. We're done taking this line down. This is what they did. This is what they rolled out. This is who's doing it. They're mud, right? Their reputation is mud. It's dirt. It's trash. It's rotten garbage. It's dead bodies. Like I said, all those fentanyl deaths, it will be attributed to them one day by historians. But these are the live-ass people pretending to be authorities while this is happening. So we live in the most awkward of times, don't we? But these awkward times don't need to continue to be awkward, but do exclude some awkward people with awkward ideas, because they certainly do that too. They have a very high cancel culture, so be sure to cancel them. Cancel business, personal relationships, whatever it is. Because see, they flip that psychology to do that to good people. And there's a lot of robots doing that right now. The lefty loons with the brains blown out on top of the roof, kind of Patsy Stooge of robots. But see, he was supposed to do the negative thing and then get his reward for that. But he didn't do the negative thing to the extent that they wanted. But he still got his reward, didn't he? He was planning. They say he had 3 offshore accounts and multiple shooters. Yeah, they said there was some type of police team that was too lazy to be on the roof. But then there's multiple gunshots. Nobody knows where they came from. But yeah, if you've got a complicit media component, then that's, I guess, a conspiracy theory. They're already ginning up like 12 different alternative histories that don't make any sense, or make the initial analysis seem to be not credible. See, because it's a post-truth era, and just like in Russia, same technique. That's what Boss Hog BAGists are using, so don't buy it. Dress up and pretenders are what we're dealing with at this time. Now, someone wrote in and said, how can it be that you believe in an afterlife? Isn't that crazy? And yeah, I know it sounds crazy. Look, there's no way to prove it. That's the point. You can't prove it. But here's the point. Because of modern medicine, we've been able to reanimate people who were technically dead. This is something that never happened in ancient times, really. Unless people had egoic death experiences, right? Psychotic experiences, the prophets in the desert kind of experiences, the Jungian archetypical kinds of experiences. But that was sort of something that some people believed and some didn't. But now with reanimation, these people who were technically dead, they come back and they're like, yeah, I was floating over the operating table and I was watching you do this and that. And oh, by the way, there's a quarter on top of your light in the operating room with the year, 1985 on it. And that's where I was perched. And the people are like, ah, whatever, this is crazy. And then they got a ladder, got up there, and lo and behold, there it was. And that's not the only things they say. They say it was a bright light. Then again, angels, personalities, people like that. So we have modern morons that continue to over-fixate on the materialist dimension. We have a materialist kind of culture, which is really stupid. Like it's a pseudo-scientific kind of approach where they claim that via science that someday they're going to have definitive results on these things, but you can't have definitive results on things that are by definition supernatural. So they're stuck in a paradox, but they just gloss that point over with sophistry. Because they're Lokyites, they're on the Loki train. Loki loves them, God doesn't. So don't fall for the garbage disposal hatch that they claim is the only hatch for this life. And because you only got 2 minutes to live, don't be afraid of anything except doing or thinking or saying the wrong thing that could mess up your karma. Not just in this life, but in the dimensions to come. We're talking about a multiverse here, people. Expand your minds. Get off this planet all the time. Your dreams are already the gateway to that place. They're as real as dreams. And all of you having very real dreams or have ever had a real dream, that's that dimension. It exists. You experienced it. Why are you having this doubtful conversation with yourself during waking daydreams? Why have you adopted such a stunted, backwards, and ultimately futile and pointless ideology? Why? What benefit do you have? You have so many other benefits by taking the bigger picture. And I do recommend these stupid sect boozes and psychologists and whatnot, they do need to read Jung and his near-death experiences if they don't believe me. He is still considered a paragon of psychology. His reputation keeps getting better. That's very different than the other charlatans that got into the game, especially on the Russian side. So don't call me a dope for believing that as plausible, especially when both Jesus and Buddha were of the same mind in a way, and also the practical Greek philosophers too. It's only these post-Enlightenment modern morons that were being funded by Adam Smith kind of Boss Hoggists that came up with this, prosperity theology. There it is. Look that up on Wikipedia. This is what these idiots believe. And it's a self-rationalizing loop. The more they earn, the better they are, they think. I can't make this up, people. This is how deluded they are. But we know greed, ill will, and delusion, they're very interconnected and they're very present in very bad people that are schemerist, psychopathic, narcissistic, and sadistic. So there you go. That's what you're looking at as a class. Anybody can join it. Anybody can also leave it if you make that personal transformation. So yeah, Boss Hogs, you can change. Do it. You can donate. You see that coffee link? You can send me. I think you could max it out 20K today, and then just keep doing that for the rest of your life, and maybe your ill-gotten gains won't count as much against you. You can do it. Why not? It's your money. It's your life. It's your karma. I'm not going to be spending it or changing anything. necessarily. I might have to give it away myself to something so that I don't have that bag. Because according to the precepts, that's not one of them for higher practitioners. Higher practitioners don't touch money. They don't touch it. It's considered bad karma. I'm amazed at that point of view. When I was exposed to that, it was like a pure bucket of water being poured over a scuzzy, dusty and sweaty face and neck and head. It was a refreshing experience. And if you can engage in it, especially you do your 3-day 1 meter monastery practice on the weekends and you do not touch money, not even 1 cent, that's good practice, because that gives you the perspective you need to take control over the integrity and dignity of your life, which is not as a peon, a wage slave, a dunce, or a step and fetch it. So you could see how they would want to change theology to suit their conceits, but don't go along with it. Nothing in it for you. And really nothing in it for them except delusion, and that is a defilement as well as greed is. But look at all that ill will they have for our culture and our traditions and our people. Look at how much ill will they have for it. They prove it, don't they? So yeah, this dimension's purgatory, a lot of different people in it, as above, so below, so, or as below, so above. There are, let's say, if you have a good person, there's always the opposite of that in this world. Dagas, right? Or Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. Moriarty, I think that's how they say his name. Anyway, he's a great villain because you should also look at what he's up to. He's sort of a Boss Hog BAGist, isn't he? Have they stopped? You all of you should go back and start rereading Sherlock Holmes, like author Conan Doyle, and don't if they came out with some type of remake. I think they made one last good remake. It's a modern version of Sherlock Holmes with who's that guy from Tropical Thunder? He's a great actor. Look, no discussion about that. And he played a great Sherlock Holmes recently. But as far as sequels goes, if it's miscast, don't even bother watching it. But as far as the old stuff, there's a lot of old stuff, and you can curate your culture specifically by diving back into that. It's always there. You can lose the new stuff because there is no new stuff under Boss Hogism. The new stuff is crappy stuff. The new stuff's the weirdly cut fentanyl for the brain and soul that they're putting into distribution and making a buck off it, apparently. But we don't know the numbers because we haven't done the... I think it should just be called maybe the Bank Nationalization Act, so the BNA. I think that might be it. Once that's done, then everything goes away these people have ever done. And it really is as easy as that. So don't give up hope. Keep focused. Don't doubt. Don't get distracted. Don't get agitated. Don't get rickrolled. Don't get trolled. Don't get yourself down. We're going to make the world a better place again. Now, someone wrote in on the abortion thing and said, that they came in with the whole dogmatic line that it's human life, it's murder and all that. And see, that's agitation. Look, every month a woman who is fertile has an abortion. It's called a period. The egg, unfertilized egg, is dispatched through the vaginal canal. And if that doesn't happen, it's not healthy. Now, so let's not get crazy about clumps of cells and the potential and versus non-potential of that. I think most women today have abortions because of the economics. Why were there huge families before the Boss Hoggists took over everything and crashed the economy? Well, because they could afford it. They also felt secure where they were living and in the communities that they were in that were very cohesive and very good, very wholesome. You had people that were coming from different places, but they were resolved to live a better life, a free life with other people thinking the same way. It was a great time. So then people are also friendlier to each other, and then, yeah, people start getting busy more, and then you have more kids, and then you got great families and everything else. So you want to reduce the rate of abortion? Well, then you got to do something for the economy and the culture. And my promise to the American people is, with the Bank Nationalization Act, we'll get you off this plantationist peonage property market kind of crap. Overnight, it goes away. See, they thought that they would be increasing efficiency by increasing economic pressure, but I think that theory, it doesn't hold up. What it does create is extinction, and the numbers, extinction of good people, and the numbers statistically back me up despite whatever lies they have to counter that. It's absolutely true. So, and we need rejuvenation, cultural rejuvenation. We need to start rethinking how we're living, the architecture of that. Less driving around, right? More walking, pedestrians, social, civic spaces, and things of that nature that are also funded by taxpayers. Like, that's where the taxes will go, and not into other fat cat's pockets, up in somebody's pipe that he smokes, and that's what we get to show for it, kind of thing. But see, what do the Boss Hog Bagist, psyops, psych army is do? Well, they take issues like abortion and they agitate, because women, it drives women crazy. The whole topic is like one of their key issues. Getting pregnant, terminating, that's just, you open the bag of confetti with that one for them, and it clouds your minds emotionally, women. Now, men can be a little bit more objective about these things, but you got a bunch of simps out there now, and holy roller Boss Hoggists, they have no morality to speak of, but they're going to beat the drum about that issue. So, do they care? I would say they don't. What they're trying to do is screw up people more. Also, that whole marriage certificate and the legal system associated with it, that's pure poison too for families. And they're big into that. These damn lawyers, that's part of this control metric. They might as well. Just think of them as Soviets playing pretend in your courts right now. You get in there, it's a fleecing machine. So what type of businesses, people watching Dukes of Hazzard, what type of businesses was Boss Hog in? Was he, I think he was a judge, wasn't he? That was some great writing and some great depictions of that class that Southerners should know better than anyone else. But there's northern versions of the same thing. And they're all as reprehensible as Boss Hog, and a lot more. Boss Hog was just a chump compared to these people. And also, Boss Hog's crime he was just doing his thing. These people have turned the lights off of entire cities and regions. These are the people that sent in guys with machine guns to shoot coal miners that they were underpaying and essentially had enslaved. You know, white people. Also some black people. Let's not forget them. But mostly white people, yeah. From Ireland, you know, where they also would enslave them to be domestic servants and things of that nature. Wasn't really called slavery, but actually it was sort of slavery. So, look, this is this world, this is this dimension. Loki is out there, and he has his buddies, but that does not mean that they need to prevail in all things, all the time, everywhere. Because the truth is not on their side, is it? And if it's not on your side, what does that mean? Does that mean you will succeed forever? Are they too big to fail? I don't see it. I think these are very small, infinitesimally small people with no integrity to speak of. So they got the zero F's watch on their hand. You could put it on yours as far as how much time you devote to their ragtag, loony issues that lead nowhere except into a lot of animosity and a lot of contention that need not be there. The Bank Nationalization Act, people, get behind it. And we're going to put the bill out, and you're just going to see who votes on it, who says yes and no. And the people that say no are the people that you're going to get unelected until you get people that can pull it on the majority. And then all this goes away. That's what they're afraid of. That's what they're trying to block. Everything else doesn't really matter. Everything else will fall into place with good leadership after that. But this is their whole source of power. Pull that plug and they got a bupkis. They got nothing. They got their tiny ding-a-lingism in their little crab-like hands. What were some of the things Boss Hog used to say? Write that in the comments. So coming back to rhino spotting. How you spot a rhino, a Republican that is against Ukraine. That's one way. They try to conflate U.S. corruption with Ukrainian corruption. That's usually a smoking gun. But on the other hand, there is a similarity because I do believe under the FDR umbrella, which includes Lanskius, that they want to pull something off, or they got people over there. But those are not the people that the people there want either, but it's still worth supporting. Right? The Maidan, Euromaidan, was the greatest, the best expression of democracy in Europe since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And you should really look at the piece of crapola this Yanukovych, the Russians set up to be the leader of that country that they forced out. That guy was a straight up piece of crud. Now, what do we have there? So we have different elements that may have coinciding interests, but for different reasons. They got rid of Yanukovych. They got a sort of a better version. What was it? Poroshenko was actually someone who did care about the country. But of course, you got a lot of diverse interests in that country, and there's a lot of things going on. And of course, good people there are getting screwed over by a lot of different things, but they're still to be supported against the Russian alternative, which is plantationism of an even more horrifying character than the Western version of it, at least the current version of it. Who knows? Like the Buddhism and Cyclabism is pretty terrible or terroristic. They don't have that. That is illegal in the dictator alliance country. But would they push it in countries they're hostile to? Of course they would. They're just not in their own countries. It's a felony. People get locked up just for spitting in other people's faces, essentially playing these agitatory games. They consider it Cyclabism. But we're so free, we're so big-minded, we don't think that. At least the 5th division is make sure nobody's allowed to think differently. Otherwise, they do an inverted moral ostracization kind of a social terrorism program with smuggies and torpedoes. So anybody involved in that, they're discredited for life. They don't belong in politics. They're bad actors. So how do you treat a good actor? Okay. How do you treat a bad actor? See, a lot of people are so bright-sided, they don't even know how they should deal with a bad actor. Well, let me tell you, people, you have different gears that you can shift in your car. Well, you need to shift gears. There needs to be nothing for people that are bad actors except disdain. Perhaps, like I said, public booing is one way you can do it. There's a lot of nonviolent means you can employ for people that are bad actors, like pulling your business, not cooperating, civil disobedience, right? That works. Unsubscribing, letting other people know, like letting civil society know that they're big into ding-a-lingism. That's sort of all they need to know then. All their other policies really don't matter, does it? Sign off on ding-a-lingism, that's a one-way ticket to never being elected again. And if you're in office, getting the boot immediately. And also quizzing. The new candidates, you got to say, hey, look, 20 questions on Cyclabism. So we've identified 10 different Cyclab lobbying paradigms. And what are your takes on these things? And if they come out a robot, they get a bad rating, like unelectable rating. Or foreign interference rating. How about that? FI. They get a minus FI. And that's just the way it has to be. I was thinking about Moses and the Ten Commandments, but maybe where did eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth came from? Because that's pretty barbaric, but a lot of people are still using that. So being a Decepticon and a Benedict-Arnold, what does that earn you at this time? And why is that so? Now, I'm not about making claims that aren't true, but if they are, if it does appear to be that way, then maybe you should trust your gut on it. And again, maybe there should be more organized attention given to these very crucial matters, because getting a faker in your political system is just a sabotage. Yeah, things don't work. Relationships break down between good people. Relationships get built up with bad people. All of a sudden, the honest friends of our country, screwballs are thrown in their direction, and a bunch of dictator-aligned or just nefarious kinds of people. They're the good people. We need to be working more with them. That was one of the worst parts of the last part of the Tory reign. They were brainstorming how to solve the small boat crisis, and they came up with the idea that if they bribed some people in Rwanda to the tune of hundreds of millions of pounds, that would stop the problem. So the money was transferred, but that problem didn't get solved. I think they had a similar transfer scheme to some cronies in France too, who were sending them. So we're going to pay them to stop the boats. They never stopped the boats, but they did get paid. But then the public's supposed to get back to work, and this is going to work anyway because they say so. So keep an eye out for those rotten eggheads doing PR for people that are wrecking the country and essentially engaged in Prigozhinist hybrid war activities while they create and also splash the piss in the face of the public. So who are they? Their donors, their network, their companies, their picks for politics. Yeah, that's not what you want. So what's the situation? Situation is, yes, Ukraine must be defended. Do they have political problems and bad political actors and multiple conspiracies to mess up the government? Yes, they do. What can we do? We can support them in their efforts where we can, but not the bad aspects or bad actors of their country, because every country's got them, okay? Every country has a certain degree of gonorrhea in the political system, especially ones that have been dealing with post-Soviet actors. And again, what was the real horror of the Soviet kind of system? Well, they have psychology and sociology and political agitation and violence and oppression, suppression, and surveillance. They got secret police mixed into social groups, embedded, all of that. That's why it's so horrible. That's why it's so stunting. That's why if you don't fight them off, if you succumb to gonorrhea, political gonorrhea, then you're going to have a bad time for an unknown amount of time. The Cuban situation, what's been solved there? What's happening there? Well, there's pool parties for some criminals, and there's whatever you can scavenge for you, but they are sort of worried about what they talk about, because if anybody gets too out of line, they take them out. So it's just a process of continuous decapitation of civil society. So that a good system? You know people that are sort of lefty, they think that's sort of cool, and that's really the way forward. Well, those people, you need to distance yourself from them. They are the equivalent of political gonorrhea. You think that's fun? You want to bang a hole that has gonorrhea? You want to go in raw with people? You want to shake hands with people that got it? Why would you do that? Take care of your own health. You know, certain things, you avoid them. You don't have to have any kinds of bad conscience for doing it. I am not banging a hole with gonorrhea in it. Why am I doing that? Well, I do value my health and my sanity, and I'm not that stupid, right? So another point on the Soviet system, let's also not forget Romania, Czech Republic, Slovakia, East Germany, the Baltic states, Poland. Yeah, all of them had just horrible experience with these type of people. So what did they do? Yeah, they attacked civil society, and they substitute it out with their own people, their own little rotten eggheads all across the board. A substitution of civil society with step and fetch it ideologues that snitch on each other and other people and undermine the real thing using their apparatus, which has different components, sociological components. For example, messing people up in family court. Was that happening during George Washington's first few years in office? I don't think so. They have a whole apparat. Then look at the universities, been dunced out. And so they do this by ostracizing good people and just installing a couple of adversarial culture jamming kinds of methods that they make the big issues, and no other issues are the big issues unless they have to deal with those issues, and then they always come up with some type of astroturf response to it that their talking heads parrot in unison to give people the impression that it's popular or more popular than it is, but it isn't. The psych lab stuff isn't popular. And the people it's done on, their lives are much worse because of it. But if people can be sent in the wrong direction, just like they can be sent in the right direction, well, si bono, who benefits? Well, the people that aren't screwed up, that were just playing a cynical game like they did in the Soviet Union. They meet and then they applaud themselves, but they also have their little bickerings. Like Churchill said, pit bulls under a carpet, nobody knows what's going on. Just see the bones coming out the sides. So does that sound like something that you might know, like criminal organizations? Is there a pretty close relationship there? So yeah, it's sort of intertwined. Is that impossible to defeat? No. Now you know all these parts that seem to be not working or working against each other. It's just a smoke show. So you can see the Russian perspective. The Russian perspective is, why do these pikers that we set up in 1919 and the lineage, why do they think they can tell us what to do? And then it's a vice versa kind of situation. So would it be better if Russia didn't have them, or the West? Yeah, but we got elephants in the room. Let's try to imagine a great Russia again without their current political leadership or economic actors, like all those actors that came in the 90s from the West. Some of them stayed there or have good connections still with people in the West. But those aren't good people, are they? Killing all those innocent people. You think they're good people? What are the Durantians saying? We need to be for peace and just throw up our hands and let them overrun Europe. Is that their... Did they adopt a peacenik astroturf yet? What are the FDR people talking about? Or what parts of the FDR umbrella are talking about what and why? And where the hell are they coming from? So yeah, the message is, Ukraine absolutely does need to be supported because it's a united European Western civilization effort. By the way, they have Chinese troops in Belarus right now. North Korean, Chinese, same difference. What did the dummies know about the Chosen of Chosen Reservoir? Was that North Koreans or Chinese? Look up the history books. But they're our biggest trading partner, is that right? Well, that needs to stop yesterday. Anybody doing business there is rotten. They're like 6-day-old milk. And any cent they earn there is cursed. So you're invested in funds that have stuff there. You're the last loony on the bus. You're on the dumb bus. Like the bus that's already been pushed off a cliff. One can only hope that they get the government they deserve, such as the one Taiwan got, which is 100 times more civilized. Who backed them? Oh, we did. Well, we did. That is to say, some good Americans did, but look who's been working against that. Is it people making money with Red China and their agents and sabotage operators? Is that how they bagged themselves the bags they got? BAG, Benedict-Arnold-Globoists. Could it be that simple? Is it staring everyone in the face? Why haven't people cashed that check yet? That check's not going to bounce. But these people will bounce out of our politics, civic society, economy, sociology, psychology, and everything damn else. Somebody asked Vegas, what about Vegas? You're against Vegas? Yeah, I am. I think that also has something to do with what the things I mentioned. Florida, NYC, Vegas, those are people. Anybody been there? Anybody like being there? Anybody sort of involved with that? They sort of see what they've been doing and where and with who. Because Wall Street's pretty dirty now too. Because they're basically the machine that's been letting this process happen. And legalizing the transfer of wealth from the working class to speculators and banks. So, were they good in 1929? Were they good then? Are they good now? Look, I get it, people. I'm not saying we get rid of it. Look, but there's ways of doing it that might actually involve doing the thing it set out to do in the first place, which is to raise capital for good ideas, sort of like Kickstarter, but with equity shares. So how we do that in the future, we can talk to different engineers and we can spec it to be fair. And if it turns out that somebody's gaming it, we shut that down. The new update comes in and that gets eliminated. And you have a committee of people that have that mandate, and you have the public keeping an eye on it. And if there's any funny business, you throw the people out that didn't solve the problem effectively or perhaps cause one. It's just like that. That's how this world works. You don't think a CEO would be an arsonist, but there have been CEOs who have burnt down their operations, and then they got caught, and then they went to jail for that. See? But then there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of CEOs that didn't do that, despite how bad their business might have been going at the moment. You see how that works? See how integrity works? But we can't let people that have no integrity win. That would be to support the bad at the expense of the good, and that's what we have right now. So did they rob us blind? Well then, guess what? They have no holdings in our system. So who are the rich people? How did they get rich? How did they get that rich? Are they worth that much? Have they been associated with cultural jamming activities, inversion, subversion, sabotage? How about lying to the public? How about acting not in the spirit of the well-being of the American people? Is that what they did? Well, what should they get for that? Riches? I don't think so. So, look, anything can be started up, anything can go wrong, and people can just start over, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do understand now that they don't even talk about politics to the public. It's all about emotional, circular, agitatory loops of nonsense. So that's how you spot them too. That's what their political operators do and have been doing. They also like to make everything personal. It's about personalities. It's about, he said this way, and isn't he a meanie? If you've been manipulated that way and you've been emotive that way, you are a damn fool, and they fooled you, and that's how. So get in your stress positions, right, and get practicing so you can get that emotional content under control. I get it, people. A lot of people are not doing well, and there's very logical reasons for that shouldn't be in play, but they are. So getting angry about things is the definition of losing or getting worked up about things. So keep it cool as cucumbers and just watch them throw whatever they can, because they'll throw whatever they can from whatever angle they can, because they don't care. They have that 0F watch. And they think they're conceited enough to think that they can get away with it. They think they're that tricky, they're that sophisticated, they're that this and that they have this much of an advantage here and there and everywhere. But they mess up all the time because they're not the best in the world. They're actually the worst. So don't come in high on low people. Come in low on low people. They're low. You don't have to stay high. You can fly low too. Meet them where they are, not where you think they should be, because that has been a losing proposition. All these Overton conservatives were the ones that played that game till the wheels fell off. Utterly discredited. People like Buckley and these fake soft-con people. Might as well be Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones could be one of these plantationists. He just goes into his hillbilly eulogy routine with disinformation, with Russian characteristics. Like Coco Pinocchio and co. So let's not forget they got a lot of diversity on their side, don't they? People coming and going from places nobody even knew existed until they showed up and said they were real Americans. Crisp uniforms. See them black uniforms with the shades and the helmet and badges and all that? You got to do a striptease to get into a venue they're running, but if they want something to break, then it's somebody else's fault. And they're the judge and jury. Boss Hog BAG style, aren't they? So now you see it, now you don't. Now they're there, now they aren't. Oh, that was them, that's not us. Now, the other thing, people might think I'm overcommitted to Ukraine, but I'm not. That's just strategically sound policy. If they take that, which is like 3 times the size of France, with some of the best people in the world, they're not going to stop their suckers, especially with the Chinese behind them. So it will be total extermination, and these Boss Hog bags are in the bag because of their greed. It's what got them there to our extinction. So they think they're laughing all the way to the bank. They're not going to come out. They smell like roses, especially if we all get bulldozed. They're not going to be around either. They're going to pull the damn pillars on their own damn heads. Because you see how the Chinese, for example, how they deal with Jack Ma, that big old billionaire. Where is he now? I heard he comes out every once in a while and makes some gestures, and then he goes away again. But some people report that he actually doesn't exist, or that that's a body double or something like that. So that's these people who place their money in that market. They're about as smart as Jack Ma was. But a lot of these people, they were so smart, they placed other people's money there. They themselves, they cashed out on the side. Like Madoff, like they made off with your cash, with your dignity, civility, and respect. So any piss to the face, we're all going to get along. It's a big circus in the world, culture jamming, a lot of things thrown together that don't work at all. I mean, would you throw a plumbing wrench in a chocolate cake and say it's a good thing? I mean, but they do that culturally, and they blame people for not liking the taste of iron in their cake. People who break their teeth on the cake, that's their fault. Dentists, the dental isn't in the policy. Dental isn't covered in the policy, see? So yeah, trust your gut, people. They come across phony. They smells like rotten eggheadism. That Boss Hog bagism. Drop them. Drop it like it's hot, because that's sort of what we're dealing with. Drop them from the ticket. Now, this is a point that can't be harped on enough. Is ist and ismist users are culture jammers. And that is an illicit crime. Now, what is the biggest ist they've been using terroristically for a while? Well, that's racist. That's what they call people, that they're culturally jamming if they don't go along with the cultural jamming program. then you're a bad person. It's a morality argument. There is nothing wrong with ethnocentrism at all. In fact, all nations, nativity, nation, it means of birth. How were you a citizen of Athens? Well, you were born a citizen. But not all people living in Athens were citizens. The first democracy, yeah. Nothing wrong with it. Africans in Africa, living in African countries with an that have an understanding of who and what they are and where they came from, and they actually like their kinds of people, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, what will these ridiculous political agitators then say? Well, that's all fine, but you can't discriminate against others. Well, look, my African friends, if I came to your country and ran for political office and then called everyone else racist for not accepting me, who is the goddamn fool? Am I that person or are you that person? Because the wig flippers would have you be in the wrong and call you wrong for excluding me from your damn country. But who's wrong? Maybe their morality is wrong. So anybody using that word, especially in the Western civilization in 2024, is a culture jammer. They're engaging in illicit activity, which is a form of terrorism. And the people using it, yeah, they have no moral authority. They're essentially cultural war criminals. So it's not a crime now, it's just illicit, but that's how you see them. Just like you see people, sadism in people, saying that people shouldn't have missed. It's a shame that a shooter missed shooting someone who committed no crime in the face. Intonating that would have been the preferable outcome. Somebody's face blown off by a bullet who committed no crime. Yeah, you can very easily set up boundaries for people that don't have any morals, right? There's no, in fact, if you set up boundaries between you and people that think that way, feel that way, talk that way, that's good sense. That makes very good sense. To not do that makes no sense. And it does rub off on you. You tolerate that? Well, I guess you're a part of that, aren't you? You are what you tolerate. And they want you to tolerate all the crap in the world, the entire sewer. Because those are PMC armies for rich people. They don't live amongst the wreckage and the riots and all of that. That's just something that distracts everyone from what they're doing. And people who are robbing a country blind, like a set of people, like a cartel, that's just funny to them. But if they can continue to browbeat you with that old dead horse, you are a fool. You are deceived, you are delusional, and so are they. And you do belong together. The duped and the dupers. The pooped and the poopers. But that word going forward, that should just be a red flag right there. That person is done. What they mean is ethnocentric, and ethnocentrism is okay. Now, look, you can be polite and ethnocentric, or you can be out of line. Like if I go to Africa and try that and somebody brains me for doing it, that might be going too far. But me losing an election and me calling them all racist, that would be ridiculous on my part, wouldn't it? How about some Asian country? I just show up, hey, I'm going to tell you all how to live, and I'm going to divide up your resources, and if you don't like that, you're a bad person, and you're a racist again. Would that work anywhere else? No? Really? Well, what's wrong with being a Westerner? Huh? What's wrong with the game? Well, they have something against it, but who are these people? Are they plantationists just playing games? Is this their moral sophistry? They ran out of gas a long time ago, and yet they're still using it as if it's something that will affect people in some way, in a way that is the opposite of what they intended now that people have gotten the new update. So no, there's no such thing as racism, right? There's skillful people and unskillful people. That's it. And unskillful people can be of any race and show up in a place that isn't dominated by their people, and then play these types of games for the sole purpose of cultural jamming, again, which is now an illicit crime, will be criminal sometime in the future. If not in 3 weeks, then maybe in 3 years. But the people using that are despicable, and it's a conspiracy. It will go in the textbook definition of culture jamming, which is a crime. So look at these people that way. You see the sadist? Well, sadists use culture jamming. Who would do that? A sadist would, yeah, wouldn't they? And a group of them, a conspiracy of them, a network of them, a foreign branch of the Barati busters. Okay? Are they doing that to the Barati too? Like, are they not? Are they Are they racist if they allow Russians? If they discriminate against Russians in their territories? Do they have the script flipped on them that way, or do they have other games that they play to keep them their faces in the dirt? Or are they now on good terms with them because they are doing something for them nobody else knows? Or how do they keep them broken up and squashed in the framework of some type of totalitarian system? People should look into that. See, people are looking into, so distracted with nonsense on Animal Farm that they might have missed that little insight into what not to do as a regime or as a democracy, right? Not the illiberal kind that plantationists like to use. And then, of course, playing that game. Of course, it's all BS. Like how down with other ethnicities are these people that use these words so glibly and so 1984 like? Because there's a lot of emotionalization behind the concept, but really none of the intellect, which I just delivered here. So people using that term, no, you're the POS. You're the piss maker, I'm not the piss taker. And neither is anyone who has that term affixed to them. Look, yes, are people agitators? Do people go overboard? Can people get worked up? Can people say things that they don't mean in the moment if they're upset? Yes, they can. Does that mean they're irredeemable, evil, horrible people? No. So bring some compassion and some anthropology to the game in 2024. That wig flippery is old as the hills. And look at what a terrible ride these suppressionary, terroristic kinds of people have had on the culture because of that. Just jammed, suppressed, inverted, substituted, jammed. So how valuable is their contribution to your country or community, or are they already setting up the problems that are going to result from that? Do they know, like as psychological terrorists, do they know that they're setting people up to fail with that? That they're causing like psychological animosity to happen just by using terms like that? Isn't it sort of related to feminism? Is it an ism just like that? Men and women fighting each other, races fighting each other. What's the other isms you know about? How does that involve fighting and agitating people and getting them set at everyone's throat? So these people are ridiculous at this time. And the funny thing is other races see it too. Black people, they know what I'm talking about. You get one of these buff people talking about where they're against racism and stuff like that. Black people know what those people are. At least some of them do. But then you got black people playing that same game, getting paid to be one of those fifth divisionists, because that's what they is. Right there, they just use that word. They are part of it. It's just that easy. They're using terroristic techniques developed in terroristic countries. Is that a duck walking and talking like a duck? Why can't you call a duck a duck? They say you can't do that because you're a bad person, right? Oh my goodness. These loops are really bizarre. So you just have to accept all the bad labels that you're going to get from dismissing their terrorism in the beginning. Because that's what they're going to come at you with. And if you believe what they say, you are a complete fool and a dupe. You are the definition of a useless idiot, or a useful idiot. Useful for bad people. How do countries even start? Yeah, it's families, right? Families that live together naturally because they want to. They like the neighbors. And then they add in numbers. Their numbers grow, right? Because it's an attractive enterprise. And people are having a good time. And then it grows and grows and grows. So when did this idea come? You could just slam people from all around the world. It doesn't. Is it plantationism? Are we talking about Boss Hog bags? Oh no. I found a clip. There hasn't been a lot of people uploading Boss Hog. It's like the last 12 years ago is when all the last clips came out. But people, check out Boss Hog. He also had a great working relationship with Roscoe. And don't we see that today in people with that dress up and pretend kind of outfits they're in? They're still saying the shooter, he wasn't political. He was just completely neutral. He didn't say anything. I asked him a question about politics. He refused to answer. He was very cagey. I'm willing to bet they're going to try to deep six that interview with his Hispanic classmate, or try to delegitimize it somehow. Oh, that guy was just faking. That's fake news, right? They like to play that one. Because in a post-truth society, that does resonate with their loony bird psych lab kinds of bases that they brainwash. I won't say brainwash, but emotionally manipulate as the thinkers, the honest men and women that just getting in front of a camera like YouTube and then parroting the same points all in unison, or slipping in disinformation like a Borg-like entity. Anybody, all these YouTubers that come out with some type of leftist positions, yeah, they're fifth divisionists, hate to tell you. So if they look campy, if they haven't shaved and they're wearing a goofy shirt and they're driving a van around, but parroting fifth divisionist points, then that's what you're looking at. Unsubscribe or see it in that way. Some of them have beards, like they have that dumb baseball hat on and the beard, and they look into the screen and they're connecting with their audience. They're doing a lot of emotional, also odd sort of emotional takes on things, like to show that they care, and then lying like some type of a reb, right? Some type of reb weirdo. not really all that American. Probably has some weird ideas. Maybe has some weird backstory. Maybe is just some type of smoke show. But he's got that beard and he's going to connect with you as a down home American, but he's got these strange takes that sort of coincides with the 5th Divisionist kind of way of operating, sort of really a little bit slimy somehow talking his way out of everything as if he was that smart if he doesn't have a team behind that. So don't people trying to fake authenticity, and then they got astroturf. So people who connect to people, oh, it's all about the person. He's telling me the truth. Never turn off that discernment module. They come up with 1, 2, 3 whoppers. That's it. That's what you're looking at. Is a big fake and phony baloney. Look how much they care, how much you think, and they want you to have the right opinions because they want you telling that to other people. And of course, their morality is in sync with 5th Divisionists. Like the isms, they know about that. If you're against, if you're for abortion, you're a woman hater. Like that's some of these weird conservative points they'll just pull out of a hat like that. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Well, it does for a Boss Hog BAG that thinks everybody he's talking to is a cracked brain, like old Boss Hog used to call the Dukes on many occasions. They just think about that and think of the entirety of the American public like that. So they are talking down to you. Yeah, their buffoonery, their strange positions, they know they're covered. They're not going to get taken down for what they say. It's just you get taken down for what you say, whatever it might be. It's going to be bad, according to them. And they will put extras on it and blow it up. And then if you can go away, then I guess you just lost, right? You lost the debate. So, but here's something they're not covering is the second window that was open during the shooting that the acoustics picked up 9 shots on from different rifles. They're not covering that part right now. I mean, we're dealing with more important issues like whether or not the cognitively disabled Democratic presidential candidate will concede the Dark Crystal Emperor's kind of reality check and get replaced with some other type of robot that might appeal to whatever their brain dead base is at this time. But okay, it's brain dead base plus those other interests. Now I said, so where are the worst places? I'd say for the FDR umbrella, yeah, New York City, Florida, Vegas, and Los Angeles. Anybody coming from those places, give them 3 looks up and down, and their story probably doesn't check out. Did I mention NYC? I think I should. Yeah, anybody rich in NYC, look at what they did to the working class in that city. Is there anybody left, or is it, oh, it's all foreigners, no Americans there left? Like I said, at some point there's just going to have to be a head count. How many Americans are left? How many did they kill? That's what we're just going to have scientists look into it. And that's the rap they're going to get. They're going to get the historical rap for that. If they can kick the can for another 3 years, that's what they'll do. But in 30 years, if anything's left, that's how history's going to record it. At least the real one, not the alternative one, like the Russian one. Because it doesn't look like they're going to win. But they seem to think they will because they seem to have connections that are inexplicable. Like friends, after how many years of war now, still people saying people should talk? With who? Did they change their leader? How about their presidential race? What were their candidates looking like? How credible are they? Do you think their plantation management is better or worse than ours? And why? Now, here's the funny part. They will adopt far-right talking points, but they don't deliver on any of the far-right reality. They just deliver arbitrariness and a permanent regime per the Castro model. They just have different optics. No, we're conservative. We're not Castro people. We're conservative. No, they're not. Probably nothing will happen. They'll have their news agency just run North Korean propaganda pieces in Potomkin villages, and that's why they're conservative. But then you look at the demographics in some of these plantations like Moldova, right? The 95-5 well split with like a 60% drop in population. People selling their kidneys and stuff like that in one of the best places on the planet. Some of the best people too. Would have been, can be, if they didn't have that management. So did they get it better or worse in the 90s? And who did it to them? It was the West that did it. Sure it wasn't. They did it. They're doing it. And their bags, right? Their bags, they like bags. So who did it? Who done it? They did it, and their network did. Fifth Divisionists did it. You think that's a winning strategy? It isn't. So people, you can get tricked. You can be confused. You can not know which way to go. It can happen, but you can also find yourself and wake up. And these people are bad news. What they talk doesn't amount to anything. They are, again, a pathogen, a detriment, a botch, a bad turn, a bum steer. That's what they represent. So if you didn't know that, now you know it. And you should be up more on the issues. Here you are scrolling on your phone on the toilet, looking at little goofy images. You're out to lunch. You need to realize what's going on in this world and start making your own damn preparations. Such as self-sufficiency and community building with people that don't have fifth divisionist ideas or agents in them. And keeps an eye out for them because they don't like any groups without their agitators in them. And at this point, that includes both the Democratic and the Republican Party. But that's just it. It's a two-front, multipolar kind of situation in a post-global kind of plantation. So wake up, get with the program, and start looking for alternative news sources. But again, don't go the Alex Jones route. That's a trap. You got to keep your wits about you. And keep things. Look, I heard today there was people. Why did they end up in Middletown, Ohio? Because that's where the gas ran out from Appalachia. But you know what? I think they might have been too ambitious. They probably should have just stayed if they were able to inure themselves to subsistence living. Then why not? What's so wrong with it? There was a lot better people doing that. And those people will probably survive when the IT geniuses of these plantationists sell them out. Boop. Microsoft, all computers go down in the entire world. That's what these smart Alex, that's what's going to happen to them in the future. They think AI is going to fix all that. They're wrong. They're deluded. They will end up building a monopolistic kind of system that is going to fail them, and they won't know how to fix it. And the people that can fix it won't help them. And why should they? What did they give them? Money? And what else? Just a whole bucket of piss? A culture that is denuded of any kind of meaning or cohesion? Is that it? They're going to show up in the middle of the night and fix their problems? I don't think so. They think so because they have that conceit that money is everything, right? Prosperity theology, look it up. They think so. But that's why they're deluded. It's one of the three poisons: greed, ill will, and delusion. And they got all three in spades. So do we need them? No, we don't. So identify them and vote them out and keep, raise the shields, right? What was they say in the Star Wars? It's a red alert. Shields initiate warp speed. That's what you need to do. Now, the other thing they do is like to do a lot of false equivalency with historical narratives. Like, well, this, because people are organizing together, it's some type of compensation for being alienated and atomized, and it's heading towards totalitarian. No, actually, that's just chicken littleism, fear-mongering, and also false equivalency. The past is no longer with us. The past is not going to repeat itself. Now, people do terrible, stupid things, but that's just humanity. That's not doesn't have any type of historical inevitability to it. And a lot of their takeaways are also moralizing and off-base. They just make the appearance of being some type of expert, but actually their takes are pretty weird, obtuse. They sound maybe morally convincing, but upon further inspection, it just goes up in smoke. It's a mirage. So be advised, the people even wanting to be smart, you can be misled with these sophistic arguments. You don't need to be smart. What you need to be is practical. Trust your gut. And returning to a community that is based on reality, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's a recovery, healing process. It's a compassionate human process. No hate about that. But of course, you do need to have standards. So there's standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 25 standards, right? People in Athens, they had to follow the laws of Athens. And if they didn't, they could either be sentenced to death or exile. How about that? They said, look, you can just go outside the city where the sheep are grazing in the mountains and there's weird people running about that don't speak our language. And that's it. There you go, you're free. But you don't get to live amongst civilized people like us. And there are people, and it's very well documented, they consider that a fate worse than death. Think about that. These days, just imagine some city. What city are we going to talk about? Pull a city out of the hat. The citizens of this place ban you. Let's say Boston. I like Boston a lot. At least I used to before it got glooped. Maybe there's still some few good people there. I'm willing to bet there are. But anyway, I sort of like Boston. But if they came up with the decision that because I am an outspoken advocate of the humanities that aren't jammed, and the verdict came in, you can choose, like Socrates, death or exile, I would, as much as that would pain me to do that, I think I would just move someplace else. There's so many other different places. Where would it be? Would it be Morocco? Would it be Philly? Would it be Cali? Would it be the mountains somewhere? I think there's just so many dang choices. I think I would pick that one every time. But for the ancient Greeks, that wasn't the case at all. It was equivalent to a death sentence to be ostracized from civilization at that time. So look at how things have changed, haven't they? Now, have they changed for the better or for the worse? And why is that? Or have we gotten too abstract with the jamming? Have all the jammers jammied their jams? Is that what we're looking at? A Barati kind of situation on American soil with United. Here's another company you should look into is, was it the East India Company and the people who founded that and their lineage, because some people said they went into equity, and that would make sense because this is where these big baby boy robots and their affiliations sort of match identically. Their track record is appalling. And then they flipped on the countries of their origin, and now it's just all abstract bagism. So spot them and drop them, people. That's it. There's no other way to do it. This was their attempt. This is their ride. They made off with the money and left us with the crap. But we don't need to be left in the lurch. We can cut them loose and then innovate our way forward into happier, wholesome, reasonable times of economic prosperity and good times, good vibes, and doing good things, not just for ourselves, but all of our friends and allies and well-wishers in the world, of which there are very many. See, even Americans that don't go out of the country, there are a lot of people that love the U.S. and love the people that are there that are struggling under the management class. Just like in other countries, they got their management classes. So don't let it die or be trampled by these two-faced phonies, the Boss Hog balonies and cronies. Because that is what they are about, and that's what they're up to, and that's what they're shilling for and shimmying for and dancing for. Basically corporate slobs and their terrible culture and way of operating and their prosperity theology that's self-serving. Their conceit and lunacy on this planet. You bring in some scientists. Bring in some scientists from some free countries and do some social analysis, and then tell me that their plans, that their economic arguments amount to anything other than a sack of crap. So, look, I don't like to get angry. I don't like to even sound like I'm angry, because I'm not. I got 2 minutes to live, maximum, all the time, until it's lights out. Like it's going to be lights out for every one of us, but you know, I'm not going down there. I ain't. But where they go, that's up to them, isn't it? If they can fool themselves with prosperity theology, then I guess the deeper they shall descend. But if you were that way, change. You could be that way. Look, I thought that way today, but now you don't. And in 2 years, you'll be doing great things. you might escape the fiery pits. But others, they're going to ride it straight to the depths. They're on a Nemo mission in the Mariana Trench of karma, and they all out of gas. They just don't know it. Excuse the background noise, as this is on location in front of a pretty spectacular river, but there's a road right next to it, as is usual for rivers. Rivers is where the flatland is, so it's the easiest way to build a road. And rivers used to be the old highways into the continents, and then you would branch out settlements from there and make roads from your ports. And this happened at this place sometime thousands and thousands of years ago, and now we've just got a bunch of people that are here that have proliferated because they managed to work together and be helpful to each other. I think that's what civilization is all about, is that it's a bunch of people that like to live. Oh, there we go. Classic seagull letting us know who's in charge. Ansus, right? It's always the eagle's eye approach. But we have to remember that people that were allowed in the community were those that were helpful and or necessary. And they were usually separate, and they didn't think themselves to be of the people living there unless a couple of generations went by. And even then, there's stories of families that did not integrate, that remained distinct, and they were very proudly and happily that way, and other people were happy that they were that way, such as Greeks with Greek restaurants all around the world. Everyone's happy to see Greeks that are doing Greek food the Greek way, right? They're bringing real cultural enrichment, but not just with that. Let's not forget the practical philosophers that were also travelers, that were also Greeks. They were also in Central Asia and Northern India and about everywhere that waterways could take you. But in modern times, you see, we have something called sociology and then terroristic sociology. So that's sort of the opposite of what I just described, which is natural, normal, and the way we've evolved as human communities up until this time. You had sociological terrorists who decided, well, look, this is how people work or live together. These are the nuts and bolts. This is the engineering of it. This is what keeps them together. There's the family unit. And the man goes to work and the woman has to take care of the home and the kids, and look at this weak point and look at that weak point. Look at this, what the women don't like. Look at that, what the men don't like. Wouldn't a woman rather want to be a Hollywood movie star than taking care of 3, 4, 5, 8 kids and throwing her life away when she could have been the next Greta Garbo? She's ruined her life, and look, now she's really ready to throw everything away because somebody with a degree from a university or a psychiatrist told her she really needs to do what she wants to do and not what's best for her or the community. There's that angle. There's been foreigners in different places and they've integrated as I've described. So let's bring in tanker loads full of ornery, non-integrative, hostile, and unskilled people by the hundreds, and just pass that off as the thing I described. Nobody will notice the difference. And the people that get rocked and wasted and exterminated out of existence, who cares about them anyway? They're not living in the rich neighborhoods controlled by the bankers and the property markets that have their peons step in and fetching it for their wages, and they better do it ideologically too, otherwise they will be fired. And then how are they going to make it on a plantation where you have to pay the rent somewhere, and they're the people collecting the rent, and they're also the people providing employment, because a bank can turn the lights off on a business or turn it on. That doesn't make any sense, and we've been seeing a lot of that, haven't we? Just nonsensical or duplicated industries, all these food delivery services and what have you. And then they'll decide who they pull the plug on and who doesn't, who they don't, who kisses their butt more, who doesn't. And the management like that, the style of management like that, it has just terribly debilitating effects on native and also valuable cultures that don't just have a monetary value associated with it. Like when you buy a good Greek pizza, if the price is reasonable, that's they're actually over delivering, you see. But they're not gouging their customers either. Like they might know that it's sort of priceless at the right moment at the right time. They might know that too. But they're just going to take the money that they take from all their customers, because they're not going to operate at a loss, and it might be worth something, but they're not going to overdo it because they're not antagonistic to the people that they serve. You see how that works? Well, bankers and financial people and super duper social engineers in the academic class and tailorists and other people just interested in plantation dynamics and quantifiable mathematical results, they see things completely differently. If they could have a franchise that's been scientifically proven to everywhere quadruple the bottom line, then obviously that concept should be everywhere and the Greeks should be out of business. You see how they think? Just complete and utter vulgar, worldly idiots with scientific argumentation that in some cases might be undeniable. In fact, if you do want to hoover up all the money from the community and put all people out of business with these type of plans, and then fill the workforce with people that people don't want to have in their communities, then yeah, of course that will work. And probably the quality is bad and not comparable anyway. And all of those other things that special, cultural, valuable, humanitarian, humanistic kinds of people would be able to elucidate on at the drop of a dime and do it for hours on end, but they're overruled in the bankers' cartel jamboree of an international kind, such as Davos at this time in 2024. And they've been doing this for years and years, just overruling democratic decisions, overruling the will of the people, wanting to not be invaded essentially with economic and sociological vectors, psychological and cultural vectors. Just don't want it for those reasons, which are 1,000 times more important. How about national security? 100,000 unquantifiably more important than some type of hucksters' money games. But they make the decisions. You see how that doesn't work? But they still think they can pocket the politicians and get away, and the media companies, and get away with it anyway. That's essentially what they think. And why should we deny that at this time? Look at the horrible effect these people have had on Western civilization. I'm pushing it back to 1990, just because I think that's when they took, when the wall came down, most people were optimistic. They went on a terror binge. Now, some theories have come out that some of the Russians that were behind it, or the big brains, they were even more angry that the West had defeated them, so they threw everything and the kitchen sink against Western civilization. They also wanted to wreck the nice places that the Russians who sold them out, they thought, wreck the places where they decided to retire, and not in some village 9 hours north of Moscow, or in Moscow directly. And let's not forget, they have international, right? The international since 1919, they had a lot of friends in the West that helped them do it. And they're the ones that did it, together with the Russians and Chinese and Indians and Brazilians. And who else knows still? Oh, Goldman Sachs, right. Yeah, that's sort of, Wall Street was the vector, Goldman Sachs, and the banks backing them. Well, history had ended, so they were just going to let them take over, and they helped them with their conceit. They were like, yeah, it's the end of history, so let's meet at Davos and let's start taking these management decisions about the economy, right? And then we'll have Jetson societies and whatnot. So they conned the old capitalist farts out of their money and out of their entire societies. But of course, that wasn't discernible in the good old year of 1990, let's say 3. But in 2024, it's an open extermination policy with a military component, such as invading a neighboring country and killing all types of different people. So I guess they were wrong about that, huh? But are they going to ratchet it down, or are they going to ratchet it up? I mean, up until now, they've just been ratcheting it up. So who's working with them? Who worked for them? What's the banking system? How do we drop that as quickly as possible? That's sort of what we need to do. And we need to start again by zero. You had a new settlement, you had people you were working with, you had the bridge builder, you had the carpenter, you had the photographer, who knows what, the religious person, you had all the people you needed to make a settlement, and if you didn't have them, you figured out a way how, but not with people that hated your guts and had nothing but disdain for your culture in the first place. And then a couple of detached rich people that want to drive everybody into the ground economically and every which way but lose, because they're the best, and you better believe it, because they're the class that has all the money. 95.5, it's everywhere they've done this. So they're the best because they broke everyone else, psychologically, sociologically, financially. Why are these people valuable again? What I can figure out what they're telling themselves with narcissism, sadism, psychopathy, and schemerism. I know what they think, but what about the 95% of other people that get nothing but extermination out of that deal? Like a peonism that is degrading on levels that have never yet been identified yet, that are a warlike measure that has not been classified yet, an illicit activity that has not been criminalized yet. But how do we even start that process? Where are the people in the know here? Who are the people just playing pretend, and the people who know? How do we differentiate those two? And on and on and on and so forth and so forth. And how many of them have stinky connections that really are stinky because they're stinky and their whole plan was stinky and the result is stinky? And we need to turn around, pull the plug, and do a 180 on this and just drop the people who thought it was a good idea. Why can't we do that? There's so many different examples of when something like that would have made sense, such as, who knows what? You wanted to get on a boat, but the boat started taking on holes, and there's a contingent that says, no, let's just keep going to Paradise Island, but then you find out the map is wrong, and it's probably best to just turn back, because at least you know where a good place is, like the beginning of Augsburg in Germany, like how they managed that over hundreds of years versus what these new people that don't know anything think, kind of way. How about that? Could we adopt that? Could we put it to a vote that won't be overruled by the financial class and then do it? Would that be possible? Why or why not? And then where and where not? And how does that have to do with the people that are blocking innovation and advancement versus the people that are pushing exterminationism and essentially pissing in everyone's face when the results are just manifestly undeniable. So women, the future is you'll be supporting men and not going crazy. Now, this is not to say you won't have any actresses. Come on, actresses. We had actresses in great times as well as in these terrible times. But guess what? The actresses now stink too. Isn't that funny? I guess the financial sector picked them, didn't they? All their crappy films. It's all the financial class. They're making the decisions, all the bad decisions. So you want to be an actress for them? I don't think so. Not only will it not be what you think, but the movie will suck too. And then you'll be on tape doing that. Why shouldn't anyone clap for you? You were in it for the money, just like all these other suckers. So, I don't know. Are you a charlatan and without any moral integrity? Probably. But that's not what actresses were that I want in any place I'm hanging out. I want actresses that can act, look good, play the part, right, and work with the public. So I was thinking again today of Epictetus and desire and the cessation of desire. There is desire and the cessation of desire. There is dissatisfaction and the cessation of dissatisfaction. There is striving and the cessation of striving. There is agitation and the cessation of agitation. There is doing things the wrong way and the cessation of that too. So you see how easy things are when you take a neutral Buddhist approach to these things and not some type of prophetic kind of future casting that materialists like to do, like just because they control the banks, that nothing can be done, it's game over, we all need to go away, and in the most grotesque, demeaning way possible and as quickly as possible because they say so. I don't know. How convincing is their PR still? And why are we taking orders from maniacs, essentially? I think that's how they could be classified, or just the other side. Why not? Cut a deal with the other side, took their sociology instead of working ones, because of course these sociologists know the difference between working sociology and a defunct sociology, like one that overburdens the man and spits in his face in every way possible, and puffs up and prizes women and all different other types of mutants and calls that progress. I don't know. Could be. So, look, we can have all these bad things and you can still contribute to civil society. Look at that. Let's see how this episode comes out. Excuse the road noise, but when you're on the road, that's how it works.